Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. In this episode, we have a clip here from Warren Farrell's new research regarding the crisis among men and boys. Support us by hitting that like and subscribe button. Share this link with your friends and family all over social media. Let's roll it.
Ironically, my focus on boys and men's issues started with my focus on women's issues. I served on the board of the National Organization for Women in the early 70s. They asked me to form men's groups and boys groups, and as a result, that exposed me to men's issues, boys' issues, and my own issues. We'll look at the evidence for the boy crisis, the causes of it, and solutions. First, the evidence that I discovered when I did a decade of research for the boy crisis book. For example, suicide. When boys and girls are 9, it's equal. Between 10 and 14, it's twice as likely. I'm sorry, something happened there. When boys are 9, it's equal. When boys between 10 and 14, boys commit suicide twice as often. These slides are not working. They should be automatically showing bars go up, but at any rate. Boys between 15 and 19 commit suicide 4 times as often. There we go. And boys between 20 and 24 commit suicide 5 times as often as girls.
What? Those are some staggering numbers. I knew it was bad, but I didn't think that bad. Whoa.
In the UK, in 1 year, there were more deaths by suicide than in all wars since 1945 put together. There's a 700% increase in prison population since 1972. Prisons are basically centers for dad-deprived boys. In just 90 years, the female-to-male life expectancy gap has grown more than 400%. The UN finds that boys have fallen behind girls in every one of the largest 70 developed nations, especially in reading and writing.
This is kind of shattering the left's whole argument about the patriarchy, and I have a feeling this is going to roll into the nuclear family of only having one parent in the household, which is going to shatter, again, the whole left's narrative and Black Lives Matter narrative that you need to degrade the nuclear family in order to help you be successful, when it's the complete opposite.
By age 21, boys average 14,000 hours of gaming. It only takes about a third of that time to get a bachelor's degree. Men's percentage of bachelor's degrees have declined from 57% to 42% in the past 50 years. The implications for the future of families is when women are ready to have children, female college graduates are not looking for male college dropouts, or as women say, just one more mouth to feed, or marrying down. What are the causes? There are a lot of causes of the boy crisis, but more than any other, I found that the boy crisis resides where dads do not reside. So the question—
Did I not call it? Did I not call it? The nuclear family, having a 2-parent household, a mother and a father, a male and a female in there with you, is the greatest indicator of success. Now, success is very subjective, but in a holistic view, success, one of the metrics of not committing crimes, doing well in school, getting a bachelor's degree, being successful in your profession, carrying on a life of morality, things like that. The best indicator we have in statistics is the nuclear family, which the left, Black Lives Matter, some of the platforms of the Democrat Party, or the outgrowths of the Democrat Party, meaning these liberals, these leftists, don't believe in the nuclear family, and they don't think it's the number one indicator of success. And by the way, some of these leftists have gone so crazy that they think the nuclear family is racist, that it's white supremacy. I kid you not. That is one of the things that the left is pushing nowadays, that the nuclear family, a 2-parent household, is white supremacy and racist. It's insane.
The question is, why has the family fallen apart And why have dads fallen out? As citizens of developed nations were able to survive, they wanted freedom. First, the freedom to be able to divorce. And children of divorce are often dad deprived. They also moms wanted options. So moms developed 3 options: to work full-time, to have children full-time, to do some combination of both. Of course, dads have 3 options too. They can work full-time, or work full-time. Each year, 41% of mothers have children without being married. I want to make 2 caveats here. The few people work harder and are more overwhelmed than single moms. And many boys raised by single moms do well. Clinton, Obama, Australia's current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, all were raised by single moms. However, the majority of children of single moms experience some level of dad deprivation. So the question is, that means deprivation of what? Of postponed gratification, of empathy, social skills, motivation, and identity, but also an increase in depression, suicide, and addiction to porn, alcohol, drugs, video games. Dad-deprived boys are boys who hurt, and dad-deprived boys hurt us. They are much more likely to commit crimes. They're much more likely to deal drugs, bully, and mass shootings, especially in schools, are almost always by dad-deprived boys. Boys who hurt us are boys who hurt. Anger is vulnerability's mask. So let's move to solutions. If the children who are dad deprived are part of the problem, the children who are dad enriched are part of the solution. But the question then is...
Tell that to the left, brother. Tell that to the left, because they don't think so at all. Again, I keep using Black Lives Matter because they're one of the organizations that on their platform, on their website, was to dissolve the nuclear family. You have this gentleman here that isn't really saying anything new. He's just providing more of updated statistics and research on this stuff. But we've all known what's been happening over the last 10 or 20 years because other people have done research on this as well. But it's being brought out to the public once again to show there is a crisis among boys and men, and that this whole push of the patriarchy, that men have it easy, oh, women this, women that. Women do have it hard. As he displayed, single motherhood is through the roof. 41% of these women aren't getting married. They're having children. There's no man in the household to help them raise these children. So these men that are being raised by a single mother are going to prison. They're committing crimes. They're committing suicide, mass shootings, all these things. The left want to ignore this. This is a crisis, folks, that we need to all wake up to.
Why? What is there about dads and dad-style parenting that enriches children? First is boundary enforcement versus boundary setting. Moms do set earlier bedtimes, but kids under dad's supervision get to bed earlier. The difference? Dad's boundary enforcement. One result? Postponed gratification. Postponed gratification is the single biggest predictor of success or
Sir,
failure.
please. No, sir, please.
Oopsie daisy.
Pull over the car. Pull it over now. Look at the car. I'm not going to ask you again.
We skipped to that slide a little sooner, but postponed gratification is the single biggest predictor of success or failure. When children can't postpone gratification, they can't achieve, they end up disrespecting themselves, and they are rejected by others. Dad-style parenting, like roughhousing and the teasing that you just saw here, also build bonds between dads and children. So let's do an anatomy of roughhousing, for example, and how roughhousing, boundary enforcement, and this bond building create empathy, postponed gratification, and social skills. The unconscious dynamics of roughhousing is that roughhousing is like a treat. It creates a bond, and kids obey because they want the treat, just like doggies obey because they want the treat. As they do this roughhousing with boundary enforcement, once the kids know that they will stop the roughhousing will be stopped. If it gets too rough, the kids have to be sensitive to what might hurt their siblings. This plants the seed of empathy. Instead of the immediate gratification of winning by being aggressive, the children have to learn postponed gratification of being assertive versus aggressive. And the assertiveness allows them to develop social skills. And the children who are assertive develop more friends, and less aggressive develop more friends, less isolation and depression. These children are not dad deprived, they're dad enriched.
That's really fascinating. I thought he was going to go along more of the lines of, I don't know if it's PJ's theory of, there's basically a study done on, I think it was children and then on animals as well. But there's a certain amount of times that you have to allow somebody to be successful so that they can receive that gratification. But if you don't allow a certain level of success with your children, then that level of gratification and that level of achievement is going to drift off to where they're not even going to want to compete in the first place. And so that's where more along the lines I thought he was going to go with in terms of competition, and that competition can evolve into achievement and success and so many other metrics. But he totally went in opposite direction that I really was not expecting. And I'm going to have to look more into that because I find that fascinating, how just roughhousing in a combination with that same theory of, I'm sure, a level of success, but level of success with not being too rough or watching what you're doing, how your actions can impact others. It also affects your decision making. I could see how that can unravel into so many different things that can be beneficial for a child and also for their adaptation of going into society and being a net benefit rather than a negative.
The results? Dad-enriched children tend to be warmer, more mature, more independent, more empathetic, and have a higher degree of self-esteem. So the question then becomes, how do we implement this? If there has to be a divorce, there must be, I have found in my research, 4 must-dos. There must be equal shared parenting. Parents must live in a maximum of 20 minutes drive time from each other. No bad-mouthing that the children can overhear or detect. And there needs to be constant couples communication counseling of at least once a month. What can ARC do? One of the things I believe we can do is do what they did in Florida, which is to align dad-enriched parenting with the goals of all political parties, to the degree that in Florida, by learning about the importance of dad involvement and what dads need to become involved, both political parties passed 2 out of 3 bills unanimously, which in this culture is just about unheard of.
Florida's red, folks. Just Florida's red. They understand the problem. The left doesn't want to recognize it. They'd rather ignore it. So the left wants single parents in the house. They say they don't, but that's not what's being pushed by their ideology. Where the other hand, conservatives that want to conserve the value of the nuclear family because it's a net benefit to all parties, the parents, the children. That's a good thing, and that we need to see more of that. And men need to rise to the occasion and be there for their children. If you don't want to have kids, then don't have sex. It's that simple. But again, there's no personal responsibility on the left-hand side of the aisle. I've said this time and time again. You're going to have that where there's going to be conservative Republicans that don't have personal responsibility either. But in the public eye, what I have seen is that party, that whole left-hand side of the aisle, generally does not have personal responsibility. Politicians in general don't have personal responsibility. Our government doesn't have personal responsibility. We as men and women must have the responsibility to take care of our young. We have the responsibility of putting all our effort into our children. The amount of times I see parents have no clue what the hell their children are doing is head spinning. We got to be there for them so that we can have a net benefit in our society where we have men taking care of women. We have men taking care of their ish. They're being creative rather than destroying. Man up.
When men are told they are needed, they are willing to die so others might live. Today, we need fewer men, fortunately, to kill and be killed. We need more men to love and be loved. Children need a dad's time more than they need a dad's dime. We need to revive vocational education. Dad-deprived boys do much worse academically, but they do respond well to vocational education, which gives them a sense of achievement and purpose and therefore respect. In Japan,
I'm curious if the vocational side of it is because usually through vocational like trade schools, and I could be wrong on this, but you get some sort of an apprenticeship, an internship, meaning you have some sort of generally male figure above you that is going to teach you. They're not going to put up with your crap. They tend to be more gritty, more manly type individuals, where in a nutshell, it basically is a father. If you're going to be lazy and that dude's trying to be, in a nutshell, your teacher, you know, they're not going to take you slacking off. They're not going to take you acting like a simp, if you know what I mean. So I'm curious if there's some sort of value that's attributed to those voluntary schools and those trade schools in which men are the ones that predominantly are in that, and that's almost like a father figure to them.
And 99.5% of vocational education graduates get jobs. We need to introduce boys to the caring professions and prepare for them like we prepared women for the STEM professions. Of 23 communication skills that I teach, the most important is how to overcome the Achilles heel of all human beings, our inability to handle personal criticism without becoming defensive. I think ARC could make a great deal of improvement in the world if we encourage this type of training for both elementary school students and their parents. It is the most important, vital, single step we can take toward reviving both our family and our democracy. We need to apply this to checks and balance parenting. Oh, sad but true. In conclusion, we don't need a women's movement blaming men, nor a men's movement blaming women. We need a gender liberation movement freeing both sexes from the rigid roles of the past to more flexible roles, responsibilities, and freedoms for our future. For boys and men, that starts with redefining power. Thank you. With redefining power. Real power is not about being a human doing. It's about being a human being. A man who joined one of my men's groups shared with me that the success of his business had led to his failure as a dad and as a husband, that he felt the business he owned actually owned him. But the men's group helped him create his own picture. For him, his picture was wanting to give up his business for just 5 years to raise his son that he had neglected to raise in his first marriage and his first son. He told me it was the best decision of his life, in essence, to balance being a human doing with being a human being. That man was John Lennon. Men redefining the meaning of power is our best gift, not only to ourselves, but also to our sons and to our daughters who love them. We are all in the same family boat. When only one sex wins, both sexes lose.
Those are deep words that ended off there, but there is a crisis, folks, that's happening among men and boys, and we need to acknowledge what's going on. On one side, you have people that will acknowledge this crisis, and on the other side, you're going to have people that aren't, and they're going to continue to push a narrative that is ultimately false, That's not going to help our society. That's not going to make anything better. You know, they'll shout things like the patriarch, systemic racism, nuclear family doesn't work. It's okay to have a single parent in there. That's completely fine. It's not fine. It's not. And that's why you have men, or should I say boys, killing themselves in alarming rates compared to women. Explain that one, left. Explain why the nuclear family is a bad thing when the evidence shows resoundingly it's the complete opposite. It is a net benefit, not just for the parents, but also for the children. And that is what makes marriage great, is to be able to procreate, have children, and raise them as a family. I know this is obvious, but when you're seeing these numbers, it's insane. If you have a child that's gaming 14,000 hours or plus, then that is a video game that's raising them and not the parents. If you see how much amount of screen time these kids are using on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, it's influencers that are raising these children and not the parents. That's why you have these kids acting out, doing idiotic things, because they see these idiots on YouTube doing the exact same thing, punching a random stranger, stealing, smash and grabs. You have these rappers and these R&B and hip hop artists, you know, singing these lyrics or rapping to these lyrics about raping women and, you know, oh, this slut, this hoe, all these things. And you have these youngsters that are in this environment watching this rather than seeking out people like Jordan B. Peterson or others that could be more of a mentor and a figure to them that will take them out of their social milieu and give them the characteristics and the traits that they need to be successful out there in the real world and actually do the things that they need to be doing rather than doing the things that are negative and are going to harm them and potentially harm others. So there's a whole hour-long episode that we could do on this, but I wanted to bring awareness to this gentleman here, Warren Farrell. His video just came out hours ago. I thought it was fabulous. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, support us by hitting that like and subscribe button, leaving us a comment down below, and most importantly, sharing this link with your friends and family on social media. With that being said, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Ball Brad Show.